just because we can't bring her onto the floor,
Yeah, right.
which is where we do all the stuff.
Yeah.
So, luckily we have like behind the theater here,
Uh-huh.
there's a big kind of open grass area.
Oh, okay.
So they've been working her there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's inhibited how much we can do with her just because, like before, when she's on the floor, she's playing, she's doing duration work. You know,
Right.
she can run around on the treadmill. She can also do the training, so it's like a very busy day. So she's definitely been getting frustrated because she's having to spend more time in the kennel.
Yeah, right.
So they're still working with her. She was doing well with the moose toy that you had provided for like the fetch stuff.
Yeah, right.
But then once she got the cough, Enrique said that he did a couple more sessions with her and she was fine, but she was like gradually losing interest. And then it dipped again, and she's kind of been not interested in everything. So he's still trying with her.
Right.
So we'll see how things work out for that. But otherwise, with the obedience stuff and everything, she's been doing well. You know, and her, as you can see, her demeanor hasn't changed. She's still like in good spirit and everything like that.
Yeah, right.
So, do you have any questions before we get started?
And her energy level, how's?
Same.
Same.
Yeah, all that stuff is the same. She hasn't been lethargic or anything like that. We've been able to work with her normally. It's just we have to keep her away from all the other dogs.
Right.
But yeah, energy-wise, behavior-wise, she's been fine. She does well on her training walks. It's taking her to like Home Depot.
Yeah,
walk around and
yeah,
that
right.
stuff.
I saw the picture
Yeah.
of her.
So a lot of her stuff is outdoor stuff. And each handler works with her at least once a day.
Okay.
But yeah, just much more limited activity.
Right.
So, anything else?
No.
So I figured what we covered today, because hopefully by next week, I think they gave her 10 days worth of medication.
Right.
By next week, it should be clearing up, because we are, let's see, 5 days into the medication. My dog got kennel cough as well.
Yeah, right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, and she doesn't socialize with the dogs. So I'm thinking just from like going out to potty in the same area possibly, she got it.
Yeah, right.
But hers cleared up about 6 to 7 days in, but also she wasn't taking her medication consistently because she hated the taste of it. And like we have to now she's on raw food with it because that's the only way she'll take it. She's been taking it just fine, which makes things easier.
She's pretty good about medication.
Yeah. So hopefully, I think by next time I see you guys, she'll be back on the floor already working.
Okay.
And then we can do the long leash stuff. So it actually works out well because we're going to cover the sit, the down, and the stay command today, which we can cover in this small room. And then next class, we'll cover the, sure them coming in, cover the long leash stuff, which is what we use to build towards off leash. Okay?
Okay.
Alrighty, so feel free to make yourself comfortable here.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'm gonna tip this down. So right now, because she heard that sound out there, is she perked up and wanted to go investigate. I gave her a single tap that was at that time at 62. So this is what we were talking about last time about having her off leash. Is there's a difference between obedience and behavior. Okay? Obedience is preventative control. Behavior is like interventive, is what I call. So like, let's say you're walking with her, she's off leash, she's not under any command. She should be hovering around you in like a certain kind of, it's most likely gonna be like a 20 to 30 foot range. Because that's like the leash that we work with. We use a 30-foot leash, so dogs typically tend to hover around the length of the leash that you've used. Okay? So if she's off leash walking with you on the trail, and she's not under any command, and she sees an animal, some kind of prey, and you see her perk up, you would not say anything, you would simply give a tap on the remote. Okay, so right now, I did not have to say anything, I didn't even have to tap. And we had somebody else come into the facility, doors wide open. I can see she's like looking that way, she's listening, but she's not invested in like checking it out. Because earlier, when I heard the first door open, I saw her perk up, stand up, and move one step forward, and right there I tapped at 62. And she popped back, and she went into a sitting position because of obedience stuff, but it wasn't a sit.
Right.
Okay? Because it was nonverbal. She just opted to go into a sit. Okay? So when you're walking with her, you would have her off leash. I'm more of a nonverbal communicator when it comes to dogs, because the more you talk to her with no, stop, don't do that, the more you have to say it. And I want to just teach a natural default of, that doesn't concern me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if she's walking off leash and I know she loves to go after squirrels, anytime she sees a squirrel, because I don't want her darting off, when she sees it, I just give a tap and we keep moving. So she's going to assume, oh, when I see squirrels, don't even care about them, because every time I look at one, I get corrected, right? So then she's going to learn to ignore them naturally, and you'll see her glance and just keep moving, because she's thinking, I had nothing to do with that, okay? Now let's say you clear the trail, you're in a space that's open, and she has the ability to scout and stuff, Beyla, break. So you would release her, it's like a double release, okay? So there's break from what we're doing,
Right.
and then there's the break from, okay, I know we're already relaxed, but you can also go chase the squirrel down.
Got it.
Okay, so we can really get nuanced behavior with dogs. So even though she's off leash, doesn't mean she has the ability to just go off and investigate anything and everything. You can dictate certain things, okay? So if I walk with my dogs and there's tons of squirrels around us, I'm walking, they're exploring, they see a squirrel, they don't mind it because I haven't given them another permission to go there. Does that make sense? So this is all stuff that I do without words, because the more you correct things you don't want with this, the less you have to say. Okay? We have a new puppy today. We tend to want to use words to stop or correct everything. No, stop. Don't do that, right? So technically for a dog, they can perform the behavior until you say no. Okay?
Right.
So if she's scouting for squirrels and you say no and then you tap her, she's thinking, oh, okay, I can scout until you say no. Right? And I want her to just self-regulate and just not do that. Okay? So then the moment I see the behavior, I'm immediately going to correct.
And then, so when you correct, you said you had it at like 62 or something like that?
In that moment it was 62. It would be appropriate to the environment and the setting. So like right now I lowered it to 45, because technically I think I could have got what I needed at 45, but they just happened to have it set to 62. Okay? So then the next thing is, let's say if we go in an environment, I'm at 45, and I'm tapping her for every little thing she's interested in, but you feel like you're tapping all the time. 45 is enough to deter her within the moment, but not enough to resonate for the future. And what I'm wanting is, so let's say I go back to 62, I tap her looking at a squirrel, and we pass 20 more squirrels, and she just self-regulates, right? Then I go, okay, cool, 62 not only stopped it, but just implied to her, don't even care about the squirrels right now. Okay, so that's how we can tell if we're working at the appropriate number, both for behavior and obedience, is once you've given a correctional tap, is it, do I keep tapping to, or do I correct and I'm able to enjoy a 2-hour walk with having to do nothing?
So when you're training her, because the last time we were here, right, in terms of correcting her, getting her on the when she was on stay and started to move, it was like down like at like 30 or something like
Correct.
that. Right. Is it so? But in situations where like you're walking off leash, she'll get distracted easily. You tend to go higher than.
So behavior and obedience are two different things.
Right.
Obedience, you could be at 30 and she's perfect.
Okay.
But let's say her drive for a squirrel is very intense. You would need to be higher to compensate for that.
Okay.
Okay. So like I can have dogs that are super sensitive and be at 15 for all the obedience and be perfect. But then when they see a dog, they're at 85. Okay, because we need that much power to override the stimuli. Okay, so once you get her back and you start like utilizing everything, it's going to be like make much more sense. And then what you'll find is, I always tell people it's better to go a bit over than it is to try to be nice. Okay, everybody tries to be nice, which I understand. But there's, like here, her energy's all the same. She just took a 62 hit right there, and she's still coming to you, she's still looking for affection, right? Because there's no energy involved. We're not shouting at her, we're not yelling at her, we're not being mean to her. It's really the energy that we carry with us when we deliver the correction that creates the negative association for dogs. Okay, so here, fast forwarding to like when you actually take her back, if we're like, hey, her number is 30, and then you take her and you like have her at 15, and you're like, hey Jesse, she's actually pretty decent at 15. But then what we'll find is that the owners are being nice, and going lower, and the next thing you know, they're using the collar all day, every day, because they're going too low. But if they go at the level we give to them, or they go a little bit higher, they're using this less. Because right off the bat, you're just proving a point of like, nope, not gonna do that. Nope, you have to do this. And it's better to be more strict and firm than it is to try to be nice and give the dog the opportunity to avoid the correction. Because that's another thing that people do, is they give the dog the opportunity to avoid the correction because they feel bad about the remote. And I use every opportunity to use the remote, because that's why we ultimately end up not having to use it. You know, myself and my trainers here, is because since we're so generous with it, the dog just thinks if I don't do this, this is going to happen. Okay, so we get that consistency. Other questions?
That's good. I got it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll slip her there with that slip leash. Okay. Okay, so like right there, I gave her a tap on 45.
To get her to
jump, right? So let's talk about jumping. So for us, we don't get jumping because one, we've never reinforced it, and two, we correct it if we do see it, right? Now, I don't care if you allow your dog to jump on you. I tell everybody, your house, your rules, okay? So for the jumping here, just because I saw you releasing her up, I just gave a little correctional tap. You can do a couple of things. One, you can ignore it and you can reward it because you personally don't care, okay? Two, you can teach her not to jump, but to jump when you invite her. Okay, so if you come home and greet her, her paw is on the ground, you can pet her and stuff, and she's like, okay, I would like to jump on you, but I know I can't. But then when you say, okay, Beyla, up, or something like that, she knows now I'm invited, now I can be pet while I'm jumping. But then you would have to cue a word to tell her, now we're done. We use the word off, and off means now you cannot jump on me anymore, okay? Typically what I recommend for people is dogs can differentiate. So with you, she can learn, you and Karen, she can learn like, okay, I can jump on you guys, no problem, but I can't jump on guests. And the way we teach that is, whenever she were to be pet or greeted by a guest, the moment you see the thought of or the act of jumping, you would just give a correctional tap. Again, no warning, because we want to teach her to assume she's not allowed to jump on guests or people that are outside of you and Karen.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right, yeah. And I actually would prefer her not to jump unless invited. So I like the notion of, you know, having a word to invite her to jump.
Sure. So then here, and going forward, now if I were to have a remote and I see her jump, I'm automatically going to correct. Same thing for you. The moment she jumps, you just give a quick tap on the button, and you saw right there when you were leashing her up, when you felt her kind of just go into this, that was one singular tap. Okay, so her assumption right now is just, when I feel this, just go into a sitting position. I really don't care that she does that. All I care is that she stops jumping. So she can stand, she can walk around her legs, you know, she can rub against you, you know, just don't put your paws on me, okay? So super simple. People tend to make behavior more difficult because they try to use obedience to fix behavior. So most people would say, sit to a dog as they're jumping, but now you're trying to stop the jumping and get the dog in a sitting position, right? But I could also just simplify it and go, again, I don't care what you do, but don't jump.
Right.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Excellent. So any other questions?
So one thing, and I guess it goes to a lot of different things in terms of, because I mean, she's not going to wear the collar like all day,
Correct.
Every day, right? And so in terms of assessing kind of how frequently how long she needs to wear the collar. I mean, obviously you go out for a walk or whatever, but like in the house, you know, she can do stuff, and I mean, she can jump on you, she can, you know, start chewing things, whatever. I mean,
correct behavior within the home.
Yeah, within the home. So like, how do you kind of judge, you know, how long, how often to have the collar on?
Sure. So typically when it comes to the e-collar, I'll tell people when there's going to be stimuli you can't control or when you're outside, right? So if we're going for a quick little potty break, in and out, no problem.
Right.
But if you're going to go for anything substantial, collar on. In the house, if you're going to have guests come over, collar on, right? Because now there's going to be stimuli that we can't control. Let's say she's just there and it's you and Karen, and she's on her own time, and she's showing or displaying behaviors that we want to correct, but we don't have the collar on. Because then dogs aren't dumb, they get collar smart. That's why I tell people it's like a cop on collar. Just as like humans, we behave or drive better when the cops are around. But then when the cops are around and we press the speed limit a bit, right? So what we use, or what I recommend for my clients, is what's called a bunker. It's simply a rolled up towel. And you can use like a rubber band or hair bands to keep it shape, and you literally use it to bump the dog. Okay, so it's a physical aversive, but it's a soft but firm object, right? So like, let's say she's barking out the window, you would just correct her with the bunker. So now she's learning, oh, okay, you don't need the e-collar in order to correct me, okay?
Yeah.
And I'll send you videos on that.
Okay.
There's 3 videos that I send people, how to make one, how to use one, and one of a trainer actively using a bunker, and he's using one with like a 4 to 6 month old puppy, and so that people get a visual of like how to apply it, okay? It's very effective. Typically when people struggle with it, it's because they're not correcting firm enough, because they feel bad. Because now there's a direct connect between you and correcting the dog. Same thing with prong collars. A lot of people are not comfortable with yanking on the leash. So that's why I like remote collar, because 1, off leash control, but 2, there's a disconnect when people are correcting their dog because there's no physicality to it. Okay. But there's lots of ways of like, quote unquote, correcting, redirecting with the toy or using food and stuff. It almost always doesn't work. Okay, I've trained plenty of puppies throughout the years where people try that first. That's almost always everybody's first selection.
No, that's what we do, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't work because dogs don't redirect each other. They simply just bite for what they don't want.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions?
That's it.
All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna give Beyla here a little tap on the bumpy button. It's gonna be on the side right here. Yeah, that bumpy one. Just do a little tap right there. Going to go down, you see how big her jump was? We're going to go down to 25. Okay. So that right there, again, behavior, is we're standing still, and I want you to think whenever you're going to be distracted like this, go ahead and give another, there we go, she's good, she corrected. Whenever your attention is going to be elsewhere, you want her under control. Okay, when your attention is going to be on her, then she doesn't need to be under control. Okay, so if I'm walking with my dogs and I'm going through the city, they're in a tight heel because I don't know if there's going to be a dog coming around the corner. I don't know if there's going to be a jogger coming from behind me, so I want to have my dogs under control. If I go in an environment like a park and I go, okay, break, and they're free to run around, now my attention is on them and the environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here, what happens for a lot of people is when they're stationary, they ignore the dog, and then we start to get all this other behavior, right? But what can happen, and I've seen this happen, is let's say you're talking to a neighbor or something, and you're just there with Beyla, and she starts to explore, is that there could be another dog coming, or something happening over here that we're not being mindful of, and I've seen dog fights break out because one person's walking their dog, thinking, oh, look at your dog, be friendly, and then when the dogs meet, it ends up blowing into something, but the owner wasn't being mindful. Right? So even though we're inside my facility and there's nothing going on within this room, it's kind of developing that habit of like every time I have Beyla and Jessie has my attention, I'm gonna just have her within my personal space. Okay? So if she's with you, your leash should be nice and slack. But if she's gonna be exploring, what's gonna happen is your hand's gonna start being pulled, and that's how you can tell if she's out of position. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay? So here, she's not under command. We simply just said, hey, stop sniffing, stop exploring. Stop behavioral stuff. So you had 1 of 2 options. One, you could verbally say like sit. Now Beyla goes into a sit. Now she's in obedience mode. She cannot break from that command. Okay, I don't care if 30 minutes goes by or 5 minutes goes by. She is to maintain it. So if Beyla were to try to lay down, you would have to correct this because this is not a sitting position. She's breaking the command. So here, we didn't use obedience. You simply just gave a tap, right? Gave a tap to tell her, hey, stop sniffing. We're not doing that right now. And she put herself in a sitting position.
Right. So she's not bound to sit. But
exactly. So she could technically lay down or she could stand. She just has to keep her attention within your space. Okay. So this is a nuance of dog training and the e-collar because it can do both. It can do obedience stuff and it can do the behavioral stuff. Okay. So if you're talking to someone, you want to be mindful of if I put Beyla in that sit, I have to keep her in that sit. Otherwise, she's going to learn, oh, I can lay down or stand from it. And Dad's not going to do anything. Okay? So here, I think last time we covered the heel, we covered the place, and then believe the stay. Is that correct?
That's right.
So Beyla knows 6 commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, and heel. Okay? So here what we're going to work on are the sit and the down commands, and then reviewing the heel and the stay command. okay, just to see what you remember. So what I'm gonna have you do first, actually, is go ahead and you'll just pop Beyla in the heel, and you're just gonna like circle around the room, and then you'll stop in the middle here, and then put her in that stay position, and step out, and just show me what you remember.
Okay.
Don't worry about making mistakes. I just wanna make sure that we remember things correctly.
Heel.
Good. Good.
Stay.
Good. Excellent. So that looked good. We did one thing incorrect. Do you know what that was?
No.
When you did the stay, do
Uh-huh.
you remember which leg you step out with?
The right leg.
Yeah, and you did left leg. Right now, she did stay put,
Uh-huh.
but trust me, at a certain point, you're gonna move forward from a stay with that left leg, and she's gonna default into the heel. So you're gonna pop her in the heel again, circle around, come to a stop, and then re-attempt the stay, okay?
Heel.
Good.
Stay.
Much better. Good. Now here, go ahead and give her some praise. Good girl. Okay. The bump there. Yeah, keep praising, good. So like right there, right? You give the praise, she gets excited about the praise, she stands up. So what you did was you stopped with the praise, you found the button and tapped, she repositioned, and then you continued with the praise. That's exactly what we would do.
Okay.
So we're adding the positive reinforcement, and then she broke the position, so you stopped it, you corrected, she went back into position, and then you continued with the praise. Okay, so here, go and step out again with the right leg. Good, and a quick circle around. Because that command of stay is in effect until you break her from it, or you put her into the next command. Okay? Good, a little bit more praise. Good girl. Good. Yeah, girl. Go and pop her in the heel when you're ready. Good. Stay.
Stay.
Good. Praise. Yeah, good girl. Yeah, good girl. Bang. Good. Heel. Heel. Good word. Good.
Stay.
Good. 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 We're gonna make a minor adjustment here. Okay.
Yep.
There you go. Let me see your leash. Here. Just to give you a little bit more leash to work with. So you see right there when I crouch down and you tapped, and she goes right back into that position,
Yeah.
right? Because she's got the concept, right? So here, in the beginning, whenever you're working with her, I want you to assume whenever there's going to be a new stimuli, she's going to make a mistake.
And so be ready to tap.
Correct, right? So because now with the transfer, she knows the stuff, but now is mom and dad going to reinforce the stuff? Okay. So right there, I come in, I pause. You give the correctional tap. She goes back into position, and I'm able to do all of this stuff here, and she's maintaining it, and you can see a little bit of the excitement in her behavior there. The excitement is fine, okay? We're not trying to make her not happy when she sees people. but she has to learn to contain and stay contained when all that is happening, unless she's given permission to break and be free to greet, or permission to come up and jump if invited. Okay? So here, all that stuff was good. Questions about any of that?
No.
So now what we're going to do is go into the down command. So we have 3 stationary commands. We have place, sit, and down. Place and down are meant for extended use. Right? We're going to need Beyla to not move for the next 2 hours or whatever. Sit is momentary. So earlier I said, you know, if you were to have her sit, she should hold it for 30 minutes if that's the time you would need. Excuse me. But I actually don't make dogs sit for 30 minutes. For dogs, it tends to get uncomfortable. That's why after like 5 minutes or so, you usually see a dog go from a sit into a down. Right? So if you know you're going to have a conversation, or if you're going to be somewhere and it's going to be longer than that 5-minute duration, I would suggest you just down Beyla. Okay, as opposed for waiting it out and then seeing if she's going to get tired or not.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so here, what you're going to do is let the left hand go slack. Yep, and then with the left foot, you're going to just put a little bit of pressure on the leash right there, where the J is. Like that. And going to cue the word down.
Down.
Good. And give some praise here.
Good girl.
Good.
Yeah.
Good girl. And then we're going to pause for a second, and this is all fine. Okay, so for me, I teach function. I don't care about aesthetic.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so if she likes to roll on her back, because she likes to roll on her back and get
That's
petted,
fine.
okay.
Yeah. So here, because a lot of dog trainers teach the Sphinx down, which is like this, very pretty. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
Okay, dogs won't hold that for a long period of time. So what I teach is just the concept of lay down and whatever's comfortable for the dog. So if she shifts up like that, that's perfectly fine. If she were to roll on her back with her legs up, perfectly fine. What we don't want is that she were to sit up or stand up. Okay? Sitting or standing up would be a complete break of the command. We would then reinforce using pressure. She should respond with just a tap, but if you see like she's confused, you would just add in a little bit of pressure on the leash going downwards with a tap, and it should just push her into that position.
Okay.
Okay? What we're going to do now is I'm going to have you pop on a heel, circle around, come to a stop, and you're going to wait a second, and then you're going to cue the down with no leash pressure.
Okay.
Okay?
And then to cue her to heel, so
Just heel left leg.
okay.
Mhm.
Heel.
Like that. Good. So heel means we're going into motion. Okay? So, and your new command overrides your old command.
Okay.
So, the break command is a universal release. So it doesn't matter what she's doing. When you say the word break,
Down.
good girl.
Good girl.
Yep, and praise.
Good girl. Yeah. Oh.
Yep, good. She should maintain that. That's good. Break is the universal release command. So like if she's in a sit, down, play, stay, or come, or heel, break means now you're free to go. So here, if you pop her in a down from a heel, if you're to step away, she shouldn't move. Right? So before we were doing stay, because we were teaching to differentiate between motion and non-motion. So if you come to a stop in the heel, she auto sits, still part of heel. So if you're to move again, her inclination should be to move with you. If I come to a stop and go down, now she's in a down command. So here, if we step away and want Beyla to hold that down, which leg do we lead with?
So the right leg.
The right leg, exactly. So that rule that we use for the stay, of stepping with the leg away from the dog still applies, okay? So like let's say Beyla were to be on the right side for some reason. If I were to say stay or down or sit, I would lead with my left leg, because it's the leg away from the dog. Okay, so here, go ahead and step out with your right leg. Good, you can see how she kind of flinks a little bit, right? So she was thinking about it. So here, we're just layering in these movements because it's very important to the obedience. So I have another client that did a 15 or essentially like a 3-week board and train program. Dog was doing great on the first lesson. They came back for the second lesson. Dog was doing terrible. Okay, and I'm like, dog should be doing just fine. And I was like, show me what you're doing. And then it turns out all their body language was off. Okay, when they were saying stay, they were leading with the left leg. When they were saying heel, sometimes they'd walk with the right leg. When they were called their dog, they were just standing still when we should be moving backwards. There's a lot of things they weren't doing and a lot of things that they were doing incorrectly. So dogs go by body language primarily. Dogs are masters of reading body language. So that's where the consistency of leading or moving with certain legs or when you're stepping out in the beginning. Right now we're doing this because it makes it easier for Beyla, but in the future it would just be this. You would just move straight forward. Right? But it's just building that habit down so that for you it kind of becomes second nature. Because for us, I mean, we train dogs all day. I have like 30 something dogs on my calendar that I'm training one-on-one, right? I've been doing this for 10 years. So for the average dog owner, you know, it kind of, if they're not doing this regularly, they mix it up, right? And then that's where we have miscommunication. And dogs are always learning, okay? So like right now, in a couple of weeks when you take her home, Beyla's gonna be great. But then remember, if we're being more lenient on discipline, if we're not being as strict, or if we're using the wrong body language, she's now learning that, and then we're creating problems. Okay, so then she'll kind of technically unlearn the good habits and then learn bad habits. Okay, because I think people typically think if I've trained my dog to like do these things or be a good dog, my dog should opt for this stuff. And I go, no, dogs will opt for what benefits them. Okay, and then if we're miscommunicating, well, that's on us, and the dog will start thinking like, oh, heel is with the right leg now, not the left leg. You know, so things like that make a big difference. What you're gonna do here while you're facing Beyla is you're gonna go ahead and say the word sit. Okay, and if she doesn't, tap, tap. Now bring her over here. Tap, tap. Hold right there. Tap, tap. Now step away.
So that was all just to correct for the...
Breaking it down. Exactly. So me, I don't repeat the word. Okay, so this is a very common thing that I come across because I train a lot of other trainers' dogs. And one of the most common problems that people get is, or that people tell me is, I tell my dog to down and I have to say it every 5 minutes or the dog gets up. And I said the reason why is because you keep repeating. So remember, your new command overrides the old command, even if it's the same command. So if I say down, she does so. That was a good 5 minutes, she held it. She decided, I'm done. If you would have said down and she did it again, you just reset the command as opposed to teaching her, you don't get up, period. Okay, so that's why I don't do warnings. I just jump straight to the correction. So right there, because she was in front of you, when you tapped, she ended up coming to your space, so you tapped about 4 times, leading her back to general area, and she repositioned, right? So dogs are capable of retaining and correcting back to what they were doing, but people think they're not able to, okay? Because if that was the case, then she wouldn't have done this. She would have been jumping and moving away, because she's like, I don't know what to do. Here, straight into the command without any need to repeat. We don't say no, we just jump to the correction. So now Beyla's just learned, okay, if dad puts me in a down and we're hanging out and I decide to get up, there's gonna be an unwarned correction. Only way to avoid it, not to do it. Okay, super simple. So here, so you have technically 2 options for stationary control. You'd have your place command. This one's the easiest. This is the most lenient. Go here, sit down, lay down, stand up, chew on a bone, play with a toy. Just don't step off of the perimeter. This one's much more strict. Okay, she has to be in that down position. I don't care what kind of down position, but she cannot sit or stand. Okay, so now you're going to go into the word sit.
Sit.
Tap. Tap. Lightly open your leash here. Tap, and you relax. And then up. Tap, and relax. Okay, now there's going to be a bit of confusion here.
Good girl.
Do you know why that is?
No.
Because we just corrected her for a down. So her brain's gonna there's gonna be a little bit of confusion where she's gonna be like, do I down? Because she actually, I don't know if you saw, she kind of dipped her head more.
Yeah,
Right? Because she just got corrected for that. So her instinct in that moment was to read down or go even more down, if you will. So then that's where that little bit of upwards tension to help prop her up. Right? So now the command she is in the sit. Okay, so we overrode the ode command of down with this command. So here, she would now hold this until either released, popped in the heel, told to go to place, or told to go to down. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, so go ahead, I'm gonna have you do a quick little walk around here. Walk around here. Yeah, up.
No.
Right, so that was your left leg.
Uh-huh.
Now up tap. Right, good, now you're gonna step out right leg. There you go. Good. Go ahead and come in from the front here. And you're gonna praise her.
Good girl.
Yeah, good girl, good baby. Yeah.
Good. And then I'm gonna have you cue the word down.
Down.
Good girl.
Good girl. Good girl.
Yeah, good
Yep.
girl.
This is all fine.
Yeah.
Good girl. Let's see what she does here. Good. Now here, go ahead and step out with that right leg. Good. Because the way her legs were positioned, she looked like as if you were to move, like she would have
She wanted to-
right, wanted to move with you. So then little things like that I'll use to my advantage because it just helps the dog clear up things. Right? Because you can see how the brain was more relaxed. You had just engaged with her a bit. So I was like, okay, looks like she might follow here. So let me test if she will. Step out, good, she holds position, great, back, good girl, okay? Go ahead and come back to her side again. And heel.
Yep.
Good. Stay.
Stay.
Good. And right here, you're gonna say place and just take a step towards the place right here.
Place.
Yep. Good girl. And
Good.
step back.
Good girl.
Good. So what we're doing now is just kind of blending all these things together to help her get a good concept of what each command means individually.
Yep.
So if we fall into patterns of like sit, down, heel, sit, down, heel, dogs pick up on the pattern. I'm sure you've probably seen this in the past with training dogs, right? Especially with food, well, they'll go through the routine, right? So it also happens with remote collar. But with remote collar, if we get a dog that starts to go into a routine, we can correct them, right? But what we like to do is start, once the dog learns or has a good concept of the words, we randomize the pattern or the sequence of which we put the commands in, okay? So the dog doesn't pick up on any kind of pattern, and it shows me how well they really know the commands themselves. So 3 commands that we like to blend together are heel, stay, and the recall. Because in the recall, the way that I teach it, it means come to me, and then stay with me and sit when I stop. So if you were to call Beyla, she arrives, and you were to just like do something like this, she should just automatically come to your side and follow you without any words. And then she would automatically sit, much like the heel. Heel's more strict, constantly on the left side, right shoulder to left leg, and when I stop, she automatically sits. So very similar. So then here, if I call a dog and I do what I call my sidestep exercise, which is I'm gonna move and you're gonna keep following me, then I'll pop them in a stay and then I'll step away from them. They just did a come and then sticking to the body and then stay, which is completely opposite of what they were doing.
Yep.
So it shows the concept the dog has, whether or not they stay put. Does that make sense? Because they're able to differentiate between,
Yeah.
because we have conflicting commands.
Yeah.
So same thing here. We're just taking the heel, the sit, the down, the stay, and the place command. We have 5 commands there that you can even practice this in the home when you take her. So if the weather's not so great and you want to just keep her up on her obedience stuff, is like this. You're just going between the commands to keep it in her mind. The whole notion of if you don't use it, you lose it kind of comes into play here. Now dogs don't really forget the e-collar, okay? But she'll be sloppier, okay? So very common when I get my spring, summer, or fall clients, come the winter time, people tend to hibernate. They're not going out as much. They're not really using their obedience other than typically the heel and the recall. Those tend to be okay. But the sit, the down, the stay, and the place commands, people tend to ignore. Then come the spring or summertime, I'm getting emails, hey Jesse, I got lazy in my training, my dog forgot everything. And it was not that they forgot it, it's just now it's sloppy. So I always recommend everybody, if the weather's not good, to at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day of just going back through these things real simple, just to keep the response time to everything in place, right? And then really applying this stuff is easy. Stationary stuff I think is so easy that people just blow it off. So like especially within the home.
Yeah. Right.
Because they're thinking, well, the dogs in the home, do they really need to work? And the answer is technically no. But if you want to keep that command applicable to like a restaurant setting, then at least once a day, 30 minutes here, an hour and a half here while we watch a movie, or even maybe just always during dinner time, like finding a place where you're utilizing it once a day, because it's simple, right? It's just go here while I do this.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, certainly, like, dinner time, it makes perfect sense to have her. She's not terrible, but still, I don't like dogs like hanging around.
Oh, sure, like if she's begging or looking
begging
for food,
right? So that's a great time for us to do plays with.
Correct. Now, another way to look at it is because we have obedience and behavior, right? So if you're eating dinner, and we know Beyla has like the habit of begging, okay? You could place her, right? That's preventative control.
Right.
What would be the behavioral approach to that?
Yeah, so then otherwise just, tap her if she starts to...
Correct.
Right, just tap, no saying it, just tap her.
Exactly. So, you sit down to eat dinner, Beyla comes over, hey, what are you eating? Tap, right? And you're essentially like fighting her and telling her like, hey, I'm gonna eat dinner, this has nothing to do with you. So then she might take the tap and just walk away and go in the living room and lay down. She might go to her bed if you've used that, so she's going there as habit, but technically it's not a command, right? Because she opted to go there. But yes, that would be the behavioral approach. If she's got the collar on, you just give her a tap and then you're just telling her, me eating dinner has nothing to do with you, right? The other thing would be if you're using the bonker and not the collar, same concept. Same concept of if you tap. Wait a moment. I want to see what she does. Yeah, there you go. You would bonk the moment you see her coming to beg. Okay? So like right here, she's on the placemat. Because she's still a young pup, her brain gets stimulated. So I liken this to like growing up when we would go to church and my mom would say like, hey, you have to behave yourself for the next hour, to be quiet. And I was a young kid, we would be at church and I would be good for like 5-10 minutes and all of a sudden I'm just like bored, looking for stuff because your brain wants to go. Same thing here. So like right there, she's bored, she's like, okay, I'm here. Let me grab the leash, okay? And technically, she could, because she wasn't breaking the command, but we don't want her to train the leash, right? So then I go tap, and right when she stopped, you kind of just saw her think about it, but she didn't break from the place itself, okay? So that's also a part of concept, because some dogs can get confused, or let's say they're on the place, and maybe they start barking at something, and you correct them for the barking, but they think it's because they're not supposed to be on place. So then we see them flush off, and then we just keep tapping them to get back, right? And they go, okay, I got tapped for something, and I got off, and I kept getting tapped, and I got back on. So what was that for? And then typically, because you can see how she was thinking of that, right? Is about after 3 reps of them being corrected for behavior under command, they'll learn it's for the behavior, but not the command. It's like right here, again, she's young, right? She's thinking, am I done? No words, tap, oh, guess I'm not done, right? Now technically she can stand, but there you could see where she was wanting
to get off.
Exactly. So the moment you see Beyla, you want to be able to look at her and differentiate, is this a behavior where she's going to want to move forward with it? Or is this just her like getting up to readjust and like lay down in a different way? Because the sooner you can stop the brain, the less you're going to have to correct over time. So, because most people would wait for the dog to actively step off, right? And then what happens is Beyla learns, oh, I can get this far. So next time, can I get farther?
Mhm.
It's like kids.
Yeah, right.
You know, I got away with this, how much can I get away with, right? So right away, if I see the dog get up and I see any notion of them thinking about wanting to break the command, I tap there.
Mhm.
Because what happens is, in order for them to learn how to self-regulate, the tap has to happen as quickly after the decision as possible. So then she thinks, well, I can't even think about breaking the command, otherwise I get corrected back into it.
Mhm.
Does it make sense?
Yep.
So let's go ahead and grab our leash here. Here we are. Good. I'm gonna go ahead and have you pop her in the heel, step away.
Heel.
Good. Want to just circle around. Good. And come to a stop there. That's good. And go ahead and down her.
Down.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Good. Go ahead and pop her in the sit.
Sit.
Hip, lightly up. Lightly up. There you go. Now relax. Good.
Good girl. Good girl.
Down again.
Down.
Good girl.
Good girl. Good girl.
And now you know, do place and take a step towards the placemat.
Place.
Tip. There you go. Good girl.
Good girl.
Take a step back. Excellent. So here, the reason why we did that is because a lot of dogs, because we do a lot of direction work on place here,
Mm-hmm.
is they'll favor this. So I'll bring them next to the object and do a couple of commands like that to
Mhm.
test if they're going to assume to go to place.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll just do like down, sit, down, and then the place. And the next time I might do just like down to sit and then place. So I'm randomizing where I'm putting it within that pattern.
Right.
But also like, so like let's say you sat down and you tapped her. Instead of going here, she thinks, oh no, I'm supposed to go over there. You will just counter her with a little bit of pressure on the leash
Mhm.
and tap to bring her in. And no repeats, of course, and tap again, and we should just see her go into the down position.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have different points of pressure. We have leash pressure, we have remote pressure, and we have spatial pressure. Okay, so like let's say I saw Beyla standing, and I don't have a remote.
Mhm.
If I move into the dog, most likely you'll see the dog back into some kind of more submissive position
Mhm.
because we're putting spatial pressure on the dog. So you might have seen this like where if a dog breaks a sit where someone will walk into them
Yep.
and you'll see the dog reposition,
Mhm.
it's because of spatial pressure, okay? So here, spatial pressure is more so to enforce something that she breaks. It's not something that we do all the time. It's kind of like, oh crap, I don't have my remote, but I have to do something.
Mhm.
The leash pressure is to guide the dog, not to control the dog. Okay, so like when we're walking, we're not wanting to
You wanna
pull
drag
her
her.
back. Exactly, right? If she goes to the wrong side, I'm simply directing her, and the e-collar is ultimately what makes Beyla make the decision of, oh, wrong side, I'm not supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be here.
Mhm.
And then the remote pressure, of course, is the motivator. Okay, you're gonna wanna do this more quickly, or as quickly as possible, because this is gonna keep happening until you respond. Okay, questions about any of this stuff so far?
Nope.
So when we put a dog on place, a very common thing that some people do is they might say place and then down. Okay,
Mhm.
what command would she be in?
Should be down.
She'd be in down,
Yeah.
but it's a down on place.
Mhm.
So I recommend that people don't do that because they forget. They'll send their dog to place and they'll say down and they'll walk away. 20 minutes later, the dog's sitting up and then,
And then they had to, like, they don't
They
really
forgot.
put it down, right, there's the place, it's just.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So they're thinking, oh, my dog's fine. I'm like, you have to correct that. They're like, what do you mean I sent them to place? I'm like, yeah, place, but then down.
Mhm.
And new command overrides old command.
Mhm.
So I always tell them, when you send your dog to place, you just send them to place. Don't follow up with another command.
Mhm.
Because we're most likely going to forget it. And then the dog starts to learn gray area there.
Mhm.
And then when we take the dog off of place and we down them, they're going to think, well, I can sit up when I'm on place. Can I just sit up here too? And it creates inconsistency there.
Right.
Okay. So there's real subtle things that we do that people don't think about
Mhm.
that dogs will pick up on. Okay. Because they're super perceptive of patterns and habits and little things that they'll try to test. And then as humans, because you're not a dog trainer, right? You're not used to this. We tend to forget things or misread things, and then we start to, again, untrain the dog in the sense that they're learning behaviors that we're not wanting them to do.
Yeah,
Okay?
right.
Questions so far?
Good.
Let's go ahead and pop her in the heel again.
Okay. Heel.
Good. Little man in the middle here. Good. We're going to cover real quick the different style of turns. Okay. So do we remember what we want to do when Beyla, if Beyla should get ahead of us? How do we correct that?
Turn to the left.
To the right?
To the right.
Yeah. So you got the motion right.
Yeah,
To the right.
yeah.
And it's going to be an immediate pivot, right? And then we go 180. So if we're walking this way, if Beyla gets ahead, you would 180 and come back this way to bring her back here. Okay. So we have two major types of turns. We have the crossover turn and the pivot turn. Okay. The crossover turn is if Beyla is here, you're going to lead it with the right leg, and you're going to be crossing over Beyla. Okay. So it's going to be right leg, left leg, and then right leg again, and then you'll be going the opposite way. So when you're doing this turn, you're doing a very sharp, like 90-degree cut, like this, if I'm using the line as a guide here. So you see right there, I stay on the lines. Because if you turn with your left leg, you would either trip over or kick out Beyla. Okay, so here we cross with our right leg because it helps her see something is happening, and you should see her naturally pivot and make space for you to come through with the right leg. Okay, so what we're gonna try right now are those crossover turns. So you're gonna say you're gonna walk down, and then you'll come out to the right because you're gonna need space to go to the left, and then slow down, and then cross with that right leg, then the left leg, and then the right leg, and you should be going back this way.
Okay.
Okay? Go ahead and pop her in the heel.
Heel.
Left, right, correct. And then when you come back here, you cross over again. Right, left, right, good. 3 more. Right, left, right, very good. Right, left, right, good. And 1 more. Good. And then combo stop there. Excellent.
Good girl.
So that's the crossover turn. The next turn is technically the correctional turn that we've been doing. So if Beyla were to get ahead of us, this style of turn, except when she's paying attention, you would want to communicate. Okay, so the abrupt turn is only when Beyla is not paying attention or getting ahead of you. Okay, so here, what you're going to do is you're going to walk forward, slow down a bit, and you're going to do left, right, left, and then you'd be going the opposite way. Okay, so 1 more time, it would be left, right, left, going to the immediate right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Left, back on right, and then left. Okay. Left, right, there you go, left, good. Good. Just cross over. Now your pivot, left, right, left, there you go. Left, right, left. There you go. A few more. Right, left. Good. 1 more. Left. Okay, now try to cross over here. So that one, you did a crossover, but to the right.
To the right, yeah.
Yeah, so try it to the left. Right, left. Right, there you go. Left. Right. Good girl. So right there, the ones that kind of felt awkward when you were going left was because since we're in a small space, you're not moving that fast. but we would want to go slower. So even though you're not moving fast, you still go slower to give Beyla time to adjust so that when you cross with your right leg, she's not going to be like right there. Okay, so I'm going to have to try that again, and you can switch between the two turns,
Okay.
but I'm going to have you do a more of a drastic slowdown.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
Right, left, much better. Right, left, right, much better. Good.
Good girl.
So here with the heel tells Beyla, pay attention to me. But then your job in heel is to make sure she's paying attention, but then two, make sure you're communicating. Okay? Because when you're walking with Beyla, you know what you're doing. You know the path, you know the goal, right? She doesn't. So if you're leading that walk, it would be technically unfair to just like pivot off if she's doing well, because there's no chance for her to follow your lead.
Right.
So that's where these movements come into play. And this is when she's in the tight heel. Okay, if she's in a loose walk or whatever, doesn't matter, whatever, she's on her own time. But whenever we cue that word of heel, Beyla should be right on the hip. And at that point, it's our responsibility to make sure she's paying attention, but also make sure that we're communicating clearly using our body language. Okay? Questions?
No, I'm good on this.
Good.
Yeah.
So now we
just practice it, right?
Yeah. So we have 5 of the 6 commands. So next time I see you, we'll be transitioning everything to the long leash. Okay. So we're going to start reviewing then the recall, and then how we start to transition the commands that she knows now towards off leash reliability. Okay. In the beginning, like when you get her back and stuff, I was tap. There we go. Lightly up. There we go. Good. Recommend people in the beginning to do everything on the long leash, because it's weird to not have your dog physically next to you or like in your hand. It's hard like for people to keep track of their dog and just like the feeling of it. So having a long leash, we use 30 feet. I think it's like the perfect length. Helps you be able to practice your off-leash stuff without the worry of what happens if she makes a mistake.
Right.
Okay, because we have something that we can step on or grab if needed. Okay, we have our own leashes here, so you don't have to worry about bringing one. Also, because like we have a couple other boarding trains, if you would like to like come by and pick her up to do a training walk or film with her and stuff like that, we're more than fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, just let us know so we know that we can plan around if you're going to pick her up at 3 o'clock tomorrow. We know so we can plan our training around that 3 o'clock time.
Yeah.
But you're welcome to come by, pick her up so you can practice your stuff.
Yeah.
In the meantime, and then we'll get it ready for you. This way, getting the most value out of the boarding train, but also you're getting to see her and get her out for a bit.
Yeah, I know, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so a couple more general questions. First of all, so I think we're done a week from this coming Sunday, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So I'd like to be able to do is, because I'd like to drive back to West Virginia on Sunday morning. Is maybe pick her up Saturday, if that's possible.
Oh, I see what you're saying, the day earlier.
The day earlier, like Saturday, late in the day, and I can, deal with her.
Sure.
But then the other thing is then the transfer training. The last session. I don't know whether you're available on Saturdays or we should.
Yeah, no, I'm available. Available.
Yeah, right.
I train on Saturdays for sure. Is go ahead and contact Maria.
Okay.
And tell her, hey, you talked to Jesse, we're trying to leave Saturday. Can we book that follow-up, that ending session or whatever? And then I would plan for 2 hours.
Okay.
Okay, and tell her Jesse said 2-hour session.
Okay.
So right now I'm transferring the stuff to you so you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But that last session is we're gonna try to tidy up as much stuff as possible before you head back.
Okay.
Okay, so plan for a total 2-hour session on a Saturday, and we can even do it out like in Oz Park.
Okay.
Okay, because we're gonna start transitioning our training to Oz Park,
Mhm.
because people have been asking us.
Mhm.
But yesterday it snowed.
Yeah.
Right, so it's still Chicago.
Yeah.
I think definitely in 2 weeks, that would be also very beneficial to you.
Mhm.
2 hours will be outside of Oz Park. And it also doesn't have to be on the day you pick her up, it could be on the Friday or whatever.
Okay,
If
yeah.
you're available,
Mhm.
just close to that time
Yeah.
before you leave,
Mhm.
so it's still fresh in your mind.
Okay.
And then definitely in the meantime, I started to mention that earlier, we had another client that asked if they could do that. I was like, oh yeah, sure, we don't care.
Mhm.
So if you want to get some more practice in as well during the meantime.
Okay.
Because more practice allows you to see where things aren't clicking.
Mhm.
And then when you come back for that next session and next 2 sessions, we can clarify that stuff as well.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's super. And then the next question, and it's the last question really, is in terms of her, staying in the kennel. So we're trying to figure, okay, so if we leave her in the house,
Mhm.
we leave her, how long, do we leave her in her crate?
Mhm.
Do we use a bark collar? What do we do?
Oh, sure.
So I don't know whether you have a feel for it for her or it's different for
So
dogs. Or...
she's been great with barking until the kennel cough. Okay, because now she's being created more,
Mhm.
right? And she's not getting the playtime and the treadmill time and stuff, so she's not getting as much exercise.
Mhm.
So my general rule of thumb is a year from the day you got the dog,
Mhm.
they're created when you're gone. Okay, overnight is just pending if the dog's potty trained.
Right.
And then if you find, are you guys in a standalone home or is it like a?
So in West Virginia, we're a standalone home.
Okay.
Here we'll be in an apartment.
Okay, but when you get her on pickup, you're gonna be going back to
Going
Virginia.
back to West Virginia.
Okay, cool. So if you're in a standalone home, you could probably do without the bar collar,
Mhm.
because no one's gonna be next to you to
Yeah,
complain, right? That's all she does really, is she just barks. She does settle,
Mhm.
and I understand why she's just frustrated.
Mhm.
So you shouldn't have that issue, I don't think, because she'd only be created when you're gone.
Right.
After a year, once you feel like she's outgrown any like puppy habits and stuff like that, you then start experimenting with the dog being left alone untended. Some people will do like confined spaces like the kitchen
Mhm.
or like just the living room or whatever, and then you gradually kind of work that time to a greater time.
Yep.
Because typically for puppies, they go through a lot of different phases,
Right.
chewing phases and things like that, so they'll destroy stuff when you're gone.
Mhm.
So a year from the time you get them allows them to go through all those phases, but also get used to the routine. So if it's like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, that first year they're learning that rhythm. So then when you start to leave them out the crate, they're like, oh yeah, this is like the standard.
Right.
Even if you're like working from home and stuff, I always suggest to people to still crate their dogs while they're working, because then the dogs get too used to being with the owners. And then if they have to leave or whatever and crate their dog, they're experiencing problems there. Okay, so if you're crating her while you're home for short periods of time, you can use that tool to correct barking
Mhm.
if needed. Otherwise, if you find you need a bark collar, just shoot me an email, and I can follow up with a link to a company that I recommend. I don't use bark collars; I use a different company,
Mhm.
and then I can send you the information for that as well if needed.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
but otherwise, I think she'll be fine
Mhm.
because she was fine here,
Mhm.
but now that she's not getting as much activity, I'm noticing the barking and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So.
She'll get, once in West Virginia, she'll get plenty of activity, so.
Sure. Yeah, it should balance things out. And then you always have my technical support.
Mhm.
So if something pops up in West Virginia, we can either set up a Zoom call or you can shoot me an email. Always happy to, provide any insight and stuff.
Okay, great. And we'll be back here. We'll be back here in May or June or something like that, I think.
Okay, cool. And your follow-up lessons, because you get the ones that you're doing now,
Right.
and you get more.
Mhm.
So when you come back in May, if you want to book a follow-up, I would suggest you do that earlier.
Okay.
So that, because spring, summer, and fall, my schedule gets very hectic.
Okay.
So this way you're ahead of the game,
Mhm.
and Maria can put you in, and you're not coming in May for a couple of weeks, but then I'm not available.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But we have that option as well. Okay.
Right.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Awesome. So I'm going to get one of my handlers to get Beyla.
Okay.
And then I'll be right back.
Break.
Good girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Good girl.
She's a good girl. I like her, she's good energy.